Talkers, Madison McGann from Covington, Washington, and today we're going to be doing a Home Talk Live teaching you how to do some really cool painting techniques using simple things like Vaseline and some Elmer's glue. What I'm going to do is get started, and I'm going to start with a base coat of brown. First, put this board down and a couple of pieces of tape so that I can do the side really well without having to get over my table. First thing to do is start with a dark brown. This is just a regular chalk paint. Now I'm going to show you how to do painting techniques that will allow you to look really old. And one of the fun ways to do that is to use petroleum jelly. I'm going to use a Vaseline to age it. So I'm just going to spread this on here sporadically. And a lot of people have different ideas as to how they like to use it. Some people like to really heavy, and some people like to do it sparingly. I'm kind of middle of the road on that. And now the reason why I'm doing this is because not only do I want that chippy look, I don't want to have it be aged by using sandpaper. And a lot of people really overuse sandpaper. And I don't want to do that because, as you'll see, when I put on some appliques, the appliques have really beautiful detail, and using a sandpaper is just going to take some of that detail away. So you can see I'm just kind of doing it sporadically, not any particular pattern. So now that you see that I've gotten, I'm not sure if you can really see that, but I've got lots of Vaseline on here, and really just on the corners where it would normally wear anyways. Now, one of the other things I'm going to do to give it some aged texture without using sandpaper is I'm going to use a crackle medium. Now, if you don't have crackle medium, you can just use just regular old Elmer's glue, and if they work in the same manner. What you want to do is put it on and let it dry, and then put your paint over the top. And what Elmer's glue does is it shrinks when it's drying, and so as it shrinks, that's what causes the crackle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on here sporadically, just like I did with the Vaseline, but I'm going to do it in a way that is not too heavy. I don't want the whole thing to be cracked, and a lot of times people tend to overuse it, so I'm just going to do it sporadically. And again, I'm going to do it in a way that just kind of shows a worn pattern. And now you want to have this completely dry before you paint over the top of that. So while this is drying, and I'm doing a nice thin coat of it, it'll dry really easy. One of the things I'm going to do while this is drying is I am going to paint some appliques to put over the top. So I'm not sure if you can see the texture right there, where you can see where the crackle medium is, and then you can also see where the Vaseline is. So right here I've got all my appliques. You can see all of these, and there's a little bit of a difference between appliques. So one of the things that you can look for, you can get a wood applique. Wood appliques are really beautiful, and you can stain them. But I want more detail than this. So some of the other appliques that you can get the kind that are flexible, or in this case, for this particular project, I'm going to use these. These are like a resin, and they're really, really gorgeous with a lot of detail. You can kind of see all of that detail. Now, if you're interested in getting these, you can find them at Rejuvenated Creations on the Etsy website. So make sure to go there, and the people over at Rejuvenated Creations are going to be online, and they can answer any questions that you might have about these appliques. But for right now, I'm going to start painting these and getting some ready to put on my mirror. So I'm going to show you how to age them and make them really beautiful without doing anything to the applique. So how I'm going to do that, how I'm going to accomplish that is I'm going to take, I'm going to use a color called plaster, and I am going to paint this. Now you can see that these are brown and they're pretty much the same color as my mirror. So I'm just going to leave them the color that they are. But you can paint them and you can get a really nice base color as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this and get it really pretty heavy. There's two ways that you can accomplish this look. So one of the ways that we can age this is that I like to take my husband's old t-shirts and cut them up. So one of the ways that you can do this is just paint, or wet a small portion of t-shirt and just go right over it and wipe it. You can see some of this detail coming out. Now as you can see, some of that dark is shining right through and it looks really pretty. And I haven't had to use any sandpaper at all. But let me show you another technique that's maybe even a little bit easier than that. So I'm going to go right back over it with paint to get it covered pretty heavily. So one of the things that I'm going to do is now I'm going to age this a little bit easier than wiping it down. Because it has so much detail on it, what can happen is your cloth can get stuck on it. So I'm actually just going to take a bottle of water and I'm just going to spray it down. So as you can see, I'm just putting the water over it, and as it pools up, I just bring it, turn it over and let the water drip. And as you can see, it's beautiful. Great texture, and you can do as little or as much as you want. So now this was one that's already dry in the same technique. So this is what I'm going to do pretty much for the entire mirror. I'm going to use this technique for all of the appliques. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of this done, now we're going to be able to paint the mirror because our crackle paint has dried. So again, we don't care if it's got a lot of detail on it, brush strokes and all of that, because we want that texture. I'm just going to use the white, the same white I've been using, which is just, it's a plaster. That's the color of it, plaster. Now, I'm going to get a really heavy brush full and just go right over. And I don't care if I get brush strokes. I really don't care about any of that because I want it to look old and aged. And I want to do this in one coat, which is why I'm using it pretty heavy. And once again, we don't care if we get it on the mirror because we'll be able to take that off with Vaseline or with alcohol. I say that because I'm seeing the Vaseline. As you can see, the areas where I put the Vaseline, it's not adhering very well, and that's what we want. So this has got a lot of texture on it, which is looking really good. Now once this dries, all that crack will happen, all of the crackle will be coming out, and we'll be able to add our details. While that's drying, I want to show you some other ways that you can use appliques to dress your drawers. So here I have a really large one, applique. You could essentially add this. You could paint your drawer ahead of time, or you can paint your drawer after you've added this. I like to paint mine before and then add. Then I have a little bit more control, and then I don't get any paint that's tends to glob up under here, and then then you have to go back and wipe it down, and then you worry about ruining your paint job on your applique. But you can see how many different techniques you could do. You could do appliques, wooden appliques. Now, if I were going to sand this down and stain it, you could use a wooden applique and use the same colored stain. But appliques to update your projects are fantastic. I love the detail that they give, and you can take anything that where you can fit an applique, you can use these to update your look. So I'm going to show you what this mirror looks like when it's all finished. This is the very same mirror, except it's much larger. And you can see my details of the crackle and the appliques. It's getting dry. It's mostly dry on this side. So what I'm going to do is show you how this is where I had the Vaseline right there. So you can see right where the Vaseline was. You can see how it looks like it's just a chipped paint. So everywhere I had the Vaseline, I'll have to use my rag. Just go through. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap this up by putting these on there. I'll be gluing them on. Subscribe at the end of this so that you can get a lot more DIY videos. Happy home talking.